What if the most dangerous mistakes you make after midnight are the ones you never even think about? A former practitioner of the kingdom of darkness claims there were 3 specific actions that made Christians vulnerable every single night, and he says witches waited for these mistakes before launching their attacks. Before you dismiss this as superstition, stay with me. According to Akuna Obi, these 3 midnight habits were so powerful that avoiding them could completely shut down the assignments of an entire coven. The third one may surprise you the most. Akuna Obi began by introducing himself as someone who once claimed to operate within what he described as the kingdom of darkness. According to his testimony, he spent 35 years participating in activities that focused on monitoring people during the late night hours, particularly Christians. He explained that his role was not random or unstructured. Instead, he described it as a specialized assignment involving observation, surveillance, and the identification of spiritual vulnerabilities. In his account, the night was viewed as a period when many people were physically asleep, emotionally relaxed, and often unaware of what was happening around them. Because of this, he claimed that certain individuals believed the nighttime offered unique opportunities to observe human behavior without interference. As he spoke, he painted a picture of a hidden world operating parallel to ordinary life, one that most people never considered as they went about their daily routines. According to his narrative, his activities were centered in Enugu State, Nigeria, where he claimed to have participated in organized operations involving the monitoring of believers. He suggested that within this alleged system, individuals were assigned specific responsibilities. Some were said to focus on families, others on finances, and others on spiritual matters. His own assignment, as he described it, involved watching and gathering information. He emphasized that observation was considered valuable because it allowed those involved to identify patterns in people's lives. Rather than focusing on dramatic events, he claimed that attention was often given to small habits, repeated actions, and moments of weakness that appeared insignificant to the people experiencing them. As his story unfolded, he described how the concept of surveillance extended beyond physical observation. He claimed that the goal was to understand the routines, emotions, and reactions of individuals. In his account, certain emotions were viewed as particularly important because they revealed how a person responded under pressure. Moments of fear, frustration, anger, anxiety, or confusion were allegedly studied carefully. He suggested that these emotional states were considered indicators of vulnerability. Whether one accepts these claims or views them simply as part of a personal testimony, the idea itself creates curiosity, because it touches on a question many people have asked throughout history. Why do certain periods of life seem more challenging than others? And why do moments of weakness often appear at unexpected times? He continued by describing midnight as a particularly significant period. In many cultures around the world, midnight has long carried symbolic meaning. It represents a transition from one day to the next, a moment when one period ends and another begins. In his account, this transition was viewed as more than a simple change on a clock. He claimed that those involved in his former activities regarded midnight as a strategic moment because it marked a shift in spiritual conditions. Whether interpreted literally, symbolically, or culturally, the concept of transition has always fascinated human beings. People naturally pay attention to beginnings and endings. They celebrate the start of a new year, reflect on the end of an old chapter, and often attach special significance to moments of change. Akuna Obi claimed that the hours immediately following midnight were considered especially important. He described a period between midnight and 3 o'clock in the morning that was allegedly known among practitioners as watching hours. During this time, he said, attention was focused on observing people and identifying opportunities for influence. He portrayed these hours as quiet and still, a time when much of the world slows down. Streets become empty, conversations diminish, and many people retreat into sleep. The silence of the night can create an atmosphere that feels different from any other part of the day. Even those who do not associate midnight with spiritual concepts often acknowledge that it carries a unique mood, one that inspires reflection, mystery, and contemplation. According to his testimony, the watching hours were important because they provided what he described as a clearer view of human behavior. During the day, people are occupied with work, responsibilities, conversations, and distractions. At night, however, many individuals are alone with their thoughts. It is often during these quiet moments that people reflect on their lives, worry about unresolved problems, or think about decisions they need to make. Akuna Obi suggested that these periods of reflection revealed important information about a person's emotional and spiritual condition. He claimed that those engaged in surveillance paid close attention to such moments because they believed they exposed vulnerabilities that remained hidden during the busy hours of the day. He also described how different categories of individuals were allegedly monitored for different reasons. Some were observed because they were approaching significant opportunities. Others were watched because they appeared to be overcoming difficulties. He suggested that progress itself often attracted attention. This idea resonates with a broader observation about human experience. Throughout life, people frequently encounter resistance just as they approach meaningful goals. Whether that resistance comes from circumstances, internal doubts, external opposition, or something else entirely, many individuals have experienced moments when challenges seem to intensify just before a breakthrough. Akuna Obi connected this observation to the practices he claimed to have witnessed during his years in the kingdom of darkness. As he continued, he emphasized that vigilance was considered extremely important. He claimed that many people underestimated the significance of their nighttime habits. According to his account, actions performed during the late hours carried particular meaning because they reflected a person's state of mind. He suggested that individuals often reveal their deepest concerns when the world around them grows quiet. During the day, distractions can mask anxiety, fear, and uncertainty. At night, however, these emotions often become more noticeable. In this way, the nighttime serves as a mirror reflecting thoughts and concerns that remain hidden beneath the surface during ordinary activities. The concept of watching hours also introduces an intriguing psychological dimension. Human beings have always attached meaning to the night. Ancient civilizations studied the stars, told stories about unseen forces, and associated darkness with mystery. Even in modern times, the night remains a setting for introspection and imagination. The absence of daylight changes perception. Sounds seem different. Distances feel greater. Familiar surroundings can appear unfamiliar. Because of these factors, stories involving midnight often capture attention more effectively than those occurring during daylight hours. Akuna Obi's testimony draws upon this enduring fascination with the unknown. He described how midnight was regarded as a moment requiring awareness rather than carelessness. In his account, individuals who remained spiritually alert were believed to be less vulnerable than those who acted without thought or discipline. He suggested that awareness itself carried protective value. Whether viewed through a spiritual lens or a practical one, there is an interesting principle embedded within this idea. People who pay attention to their habits, emotions, and decisions are often better equipped to navigate challenges than those who move through life unconsciously. Awareness creates opportunities for reflection, correction, and growth. As the discussion of watching hours continued, he returned repeatedly to the importance of observation. He claimed that the goal was not always immediate action, but rather the collection of information. Information, he suggested, was considered powerful because it revealed patterns. By identifying patterns, observers could supposedly anticipate future behavior. This concept is familiar in many areas of life. Businesses study consumer behavior. Scientists analyze data. Historians examine recurring events. In each case, observation is used to understand patterns and predict outcomes. Akuna Obi framed his experiences within a spiritual context, describing a system that allegedly relied heavily on the same principle. The atmosphere he described was one of patience and careful attention. Rather than portraying the night as a time of sudden dramatic events, he depicted it as a period of quiet observation. This portrayal creates a sense of intrigue because it shifts the focus away from obvious dangers and towards subtle influences. It suggests that the most significant moments may not always involve visible actions, but rather the unnoticed habits and decisions that shape daily life. As he reflected on his years of involvement, he presented the watching hours as a period during which ordinary actions carried extraordinary significance, setting the stage for the specific warnings he would later share about behaviors that he believed made individuals particularly vulnerable during the hours after midnight. According to Akuna Obi's account, the first action that individuals were warned never to do after midnight was leaving their homes while consumed by anger. He explained that within the system he claimed to have once participated in, anger was viewed as far more than a temporary emotional reaction. It was considered a condition that altered a person's judgment, weakened self-control, and created opportunities that otherwise might not exist. He suggested that many people underestimate the power of emotions, treating them as passing feelings that disappear after a short time. Yet, from his perspective, emotions carried consequences that extended beyond the moment in which they were experienced. He described anger as one of the easiest emotions to recognize because it often produces visible changes in behavior. A person who is angry may speak differently, think differently, and make decisions they would never consider while calm. In everyday life, countless examples illustrate how quickly anger can influence actions. Relationships have been damaged by words spoken in frustration. Opportunities have been lost because of impulsive decisions. Arguments have escalated simply because neither side was willing to pause and reflect. Akuna Obi connected these observations to a larger spiritual framework, claiming that anger was viewed as a doorway through which negative influences could operate more effectively. According to his testimony, the danger increased when anger was combined with movement during the late night hours. He claimed that leaving one's home in a state of emotional agitation after midnight attracted special attention. In his narrative, the home represented a place of stability, familiarity, and protection. Stepping outside while angry symbolized more than a physical action. It represented a person carrying emotional turmoil into an environment where they were already less alert and more vulnerable. He suggested that those involved in nocturnal surveillance paid close attention to such moments because angry individuals were often unpredictable. As he described these situations, he emphasized that anger narrows perspective. When people become upset, they tend to focus intensely on whatever triggered their emotions. Their attention shifts away from broader considerations and becomes concentrated on immediate frustration. This narrowing of focus can reduce awareness of surrounding circumstances. A person who storms out of a house after an argument may be thinking only about the disagreement, not about potential consequences, risks, or alternative choices. Akuna Obi claimed that this reduction in awareness was precisely what observers looked for. He explained that during the watching hours, emotional states were monitored carefully because they revealed opportunities. A calm individual was believed to be more difficult to influence because they could evaluate situations clearly. An angry individual, however, often acted before thinking. Decisions were made quickly. Reactions became stronger. Patience disappeared. In his account, these characteristics created openings that could be exploited, whether interpreted spiritually or psychologically. The principle itself is easy to recognize. Throughout history, countless mistakes have occurred, not because people lacked intelligence, but because strong emotions temporarily overpowered good judgment. Akuna Obi also suggested that many people mistakenly view anger as strength. In reality, he argued, uncontrolled anger often produces the opposite effect. Instead of increasing control, it reduces it. Instead of creating clarity, it creates confusion. Instead of solving problems, it frequently generates new ones. He claimed that practitioners within the kingdom of darkness understood this dynamic and paid attention whenever anger became visible. To them, an angry person was not strong but exposed. The timing of midnight added another layer to his warning. The hours after midnight are naturally different from the daytime. Fewer people are awake. Assistance may be less available. Visibility is reduced. The atmosphere itself feels quieter and more isolated. Because of these factors, decisions made during the late night hours often carry greater consequences. A person who leaves home while angry during the day may encounter distractions, conversations, or circumstances that help them regain perspective. After midnight, however, isolation can intensify emotions rather than calm them. Akuna Obi claimed that this combination of anger and isolation was particularly concerning. As he reflected on his experiences, he repeatedly emphasized the importance of self-control. He suggested that many dangers could be avoided simply by refusing to act during moments of intense emotion. Waiting, calming down, reflecting, and allowing anger to pass were presented as powerful alternatives to impulsive action. He described emotional discipline as a form of protection because it prevented individuals from creating vulnerabilities through their own decisions. In this way, his warning extended beyond the supernatural claims of his testimony and touched upon a principle that appears across many cultures and traditions. Important decisions should not be made while emotions are at their peak. He claimed that observers often paid less attention to the specific cause of someone's anger and more attention to how they responded. Two individuals might experience the same frustration, yet one remains calm while the other reacts impulsively. The reaction itself, he suggested, revealed valuable information. It demonstrated patterns of behavior that could be studied and anticipated. This focus on response rather than circumstance, formed an important part of his explanation and served as the foundation for the warning he believed people should take seriously during the hours after midnight. The second action Akuna Obi warned against was counting money or engaging in conversations about finances after midnight. According to his testimony, financial matters received extraordinary attention within the kingdom of darkness, because they were closely connected to a person's future opportunities, stability, and progress. He claimed that specialized groups existed whose primary focus involved monitoring financial activities. These individuals, he alleged, paid close attention to people approaching significant breakthroughs, promotions, business opportunities, or periods of economic improvement. He explained that money represents far more than currency. It often reflects years of effort, planning, sacrifice, and ambition. Because of this, financial progress can influence nearly every area of a person's life. Improved finances may create educational opportunities, strengthen families, support charitable activities, or open doors that were previously unavailable. Akuna Obi claimed that those involved in financial surveillance understood the importance of these possibilities and therefore paid careful attention whenever signs of advancement appeared. According to his account, midnight was considered a sensitive period for financial discussions. He suggested that many people remain awake late into the night, thinking about debts, investments, business plans, savings, and future goals. During these quiet hours, concerns about money often become more prominent because distractions are reduced. Without the activity of the daytime to occupy attention, financial worries and ambitions frequently move to the forefront of the mind. Akuna Obi claimed that these moments revealed valuable information about an individual's expectations and plans. He described situations in which people would sit alone, counting money, reviewing earnings, or discussing future financial opportunities after midnight. From his perspective, these actions were not merely practical activities. They represented moments in which individuals focused intensely on resources, goals, and expectations. He claimed that observers considered such moments important because they revealed the direction in which a person's life was moving. Someone preparing for growth would naturally think differently from someone struggling with decline. By studying these patterns, observers allegedly sought to identify emerging opportunities before they fully materialized. As he continued, he suggested that anticipation itself attracted attention. A person expecting financial improvement often displays subtle behavioral changes. Confidence increases. Planning becomes more detailed. Conversations begin to focus on future possibilities. New opportunities are explored. These indicators, according to his testimony, were viewed as signs that a breakthrough might be approaching. He claimed that financial destruction specialists focused on such indicators because their objective was to interfere with progress before it became fully established. The idea introduces an interesting perspective on the relationship between attention and achievement. Throughout history, successful individuals have often recognized the importance of protecting plans during their early stages. Major projects, businesses, and investments frequently require time to develop before results become visible. During these formative periods, uncertainty remains high and outcomes are not yet guaranteed. Akuna Obi connected this principle to his experiences, suggesting that financial discussions conducted during the watching hours revealed information that observers considered useful. He emphasized that the concern was not money itself, but the significance attached to it. Money functions as a tool, but it also represents hopes, ambitions, and future possibilities. Conversations about finances often reveal deeper priorities and intentions. By listening carefully, one can learn a great deal about a person's goals, fears, and expectations. According to Akuna Obi, this was precisely why financial matters received so much attention during the midnight hours. They offered insight into where a person was heading and what they hoped to achieve, making them a focal point for those he claimed were engaged in spiritual surveillance. The third action Akuna Obi warned against was looking into mirrors after midnight. According to his testimony, mirrors held a significance that extended far beyond their ordinary purpose. To most people, a mirror is simply a reflective surface used for grooming, dressing, or checking one's appearance. It is an everyday object found in homes around the world, often overlooked because of its familiarity. Yet Akuna Obi claimed that within the kingdom of darkness, mirrors were viewed very differently. He alleged that they were regarded as instruments capable of serving purposes beyond what most people could see or understand. As he explained this belief, he emphasized that many traditions throughout history have attached mystery to reflective surfaces. Long before modern technology, mirrors fascinated people because they produced an image that appeared both familiar and separate from reality. Looking into a mirror creates the unusual experience of observing oneself from an external perspective. For centuries, this phenomenon inspired myths, legends, and stories across different cultures. Some traditions viewed mirrors as symbols of truth and self-reflection, while others associated them with hidden realms, spiritual encounters, or unseen influences. Akuna Obi connected his experiences to this broader history of mystery surrounding reflective objects. According to his account, the hours after midnight were considered particularly significant when it came to mirrors. He claimed that during the watching hours, reflective surfaces attracted special attention because they were believed to function as observation points. In his narrative, mirrors were described not merely as objects, but as potential portals through which monitoring activities could occur. Whether one accepts or rejects such claims, the idea immediately captures attention because it transforms one of the most ordinary household items into something surrounded by intrigue and uncertainty. He explained that practitioners allegedly paid attention to individuals who spent time in front of mirrors during the late night hours. According to his testimony, these moments were viewed as opportunities because people often approached mirrors when they were tired, emotionally vulnerable, or deeply focused on personal thoughts. Midnight is a unique period. The world grows quieter, distractions fade, and many people become more reflective. Concerns that remain hidden during the day frequently emerge during these hours. People think about relationships, finances, health, ambitions, and unanswered questions. Akuna Obi claimed that this emotional and mental state made individuals more susceptible to influence. As he continued, he suggested that mirrors held symbolic importance because they encourage self-focus. Looking into a mirror naturally directs attention inward. A person examines their appearance, notices imperfections, recalls memories, or evaluates changes that have occurred over time. This process of self-observation can be harmless and routine, yet it can also become deeply emotional depending on the circumstances. Someone who is worried, exhausted, or discouraged may experience very different thoughts while looking into a mirror than someone who feels confident and content. According to Akuna Obi, those involved in spiritual surveillance understood the significance of these moments. He claimed that midnight amplified this effect. During daylight hours, people are usually occupied with responsibilities, conversations, and activities that keep their attention focused outward. After midnight, however, the environment changes dramatically. The silence of the night often creates conditions that encourage introspection. Thoughts become louder, emotions become more noticeable. Questions that were ignored throughout the day suddenly demand attention. In this atmosphere, even ordinary actions can feel more significant. Akuna Obi argued that looking into a mirror during such moments increased vulnerability because it combines solitude, reflection, and emotional sensitivity. According to his testimony, mirrors were believed to reveal more than physical appearances. He suggested that practitioners viewed them as tools capable of exposing conditions that extended beyond the visible world. In his account, individuals who spent extended periods looking into mirrors after midnight were unknowingly participating in an activity that attracted observation. He claimed that those conducting surveillance considered these moments valuable because they provided insight into a person's emotional and spiritual state. Fear, uncertainty, pride, insecurity, and anxiety were all emotions that could allegedly become more apparent during such encounters. As he reflected on his experiences, Akuna Obi emphasized the importance of awareness. He suggested that most people interact with mirrors without giving them a second thought. Their attention remains fixed on practical concerns such as appearance or preparation for the next day. Yet he claimed that those operating within the kingdom of darkness assigned meaning to actions that appeared ordinary on the surface. From his perspective, the significance was never limited to the mirror itself, but extended to the circumstances surrounding its use. The timing, emotional condition, and mental focus of the individual were all considered important factors. He also described how fear itself played a role in many experiences associated with midnight. The night has always occupied a unique place in human imagination. Darkness reduces visibility and leaves more room for uncertainty. Familiar objects can appear unfamiliar. Ordinary sounds may seem unusual. Because of this, the mind often becomes more active in filling gaps created by limited information. Akuna Obi suggested that practitioners understood this psychological reality and viewed it as an advantage. Individuals who were already fearful or anxious could become even more susceptible to negative thoughts and influences. Throughout his explanation, he repeatedly returned to the theme of vigilance. He argued that awareness was one of the most powerful forms of protection available to an individual. By remaining conscious of thoughts, emotions, and actions during the late-night hours, a person could avoid situations that created unnecessary vulnerability. Whether discussing anger, financial matters, or mirrors, his message consistently emphasized the importance of discipline and self-control. He portrayed the midnight hours as a period requiring greater caution because people are often less alert and more emotionally exposed than they realize. According to his account, mirrors represented one of the clearest examples of how ordinary objects could take on extraordinary significance depending on the context in which they were used. A mirror sitting quietly on a wall appears completely harmless, yet within the framework of his testimony, it became a symbol of hidden observation and unseen activity. This contrast between the familiar and the mysterious contributed to the fascination surrounding his warning. It encouraged listeners to reconsider everyday habits and to think more carefully about actions that normally receive little attention. As his discussion of mirrors continued, he suggested that many individuals dismiss unusual experiences because they assume that familiar objects cannot possibly be connected to deeper realities. He claimed that this assumption creates complacency. People become comfortable with routines and stop questioning the significance of their actions. In his view, awareness required the willingness to examine even the most ordinary aspects of daily life. The mirror served as an example of this principle because it was both common and overlooked, making it an ideal subject for reflection and caution during the watching hours he described. As Akuna Obi brought his testimony to a close, his central message remained consistent from beginning to end. He urged listeners to pay closer attention to what they do during the quiet hours after midnight. Drawing from what he claimed were 35 years of experience within the kingdom of darkness, he argued that many people unknowingly create vulnerabilities through ordinary actions that seem harmless on the surface. Whether it was leaving home while consumed by anger, becoming overly focused on financial matters during the watching hours, or spending time in front of mirrors after midnight, he believed these behaviors revealed emotional and spiritual conditions that could be observed and exploited. His testimony was ultimately a call for greater awareness, self-control, and vigilance. He encouraged people to recognize that the late-night hours are often when emotions are strongest, judgment is weakest, and distractions are few. In those moments, he suggested that discipline becomes more important than ever. By remaining calm, thoughtful, and conscious of their actions, individuals could avoid many of the situations he claimed created openings for negative influences. Whether listeners viewed his account as a spiritual warning, a personal testimony, or a lesson about the importance of self-awareness, his message invited them to think carefully about habits that are often overlooked and to approach the midnight hours with wisdom, caution, and intentionality. Before you decide what to believe about Akuna Obi's extraordinary claims, consider this question. How many of your late-night habits happen without conscious thought? The most intriguing part of his testimony is not simply the warnings themselves, but the idea that small decisions made during quiet moments can carry consequences far greater than we realize. If a former practitioner spent decades studying human behavior after midnight, what patterns did he see that convinced him these actions mattered so much? And if awareness is truly a form of protection, what other unnoticed habits might be shaping outcomes in ways most people never consider? The answers to those questions may be more important than they first appear. Thank you for watching this video all the way to the end. If you found this testimony thought-provoking and informative, make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you don't miss future content. We'd love to hear your thoughts, so share your perspective in the comments below. Your support helps us continue bringing you fascinating stories, powerful testimonies, and meaningful discussions. Thank you again for spending your time with us, and we'll see you in the next video.